Ladies and gentlemen, let's for a gaming sitcom video. We're going to be doing a tech tribunal, an analysis, if you will, of Watch Dogs on the Xbox One versus the PS4. This is also a full article with very high quality downloads of sections of gameplay as well as screenshots, high quality downloads of that, so I'd recommend you check it out if you want to see everything in non-compression glory. So first things first, this is going to be focused purely on the graphics. Frame rate analysis will be coming up over the next couple of days for both versions. I'm also going to be doing a comparison on the PC as well. So first things first, resolution and frame rate, we're just going to briefly touch over the frame rate. It's capped at 30 frames per second on both consoles and generally does maintain it unless things get really busy. And both consoles suffer pretty much from similar levels of slowdown, but as I said, we'll be going more into that over the next few days. In terms of resolution, the PS4 does have one up on the Xbox One. Ubisoft themselves have confirmed this, and it's pretty easy to notice a difference of the internal resolutions. Neither console manages to hit the 1080p native, 900p for the PS4, 792 for the Xbox One. This means that you're getting a roughly 77% of the pixels on the Xbox One version that you would on the PS4. But despite this, it's not a huge, massive, big deal. I mean, it's not like there's a massive gap between them, and we'll discuss more about this in just a moment. So both versions of the game are utilizing sub-pixel morphological anti-aliasing, which is a post-processing technique. It's a little bit like FXAA, but a bit more advanced. If you want more information, it's in the article. It's less costly, basically, to run than something like super sample anti-aliasing, which is a pretty simple anti-aliasing technique. You're basically just downsampling an image, and of course it's also less costly both in terms of bandwidth, memory, and latency than something like MSAA as well. That's not to say that the PS4 and Xbox One versions are completely the same, aside from the resolution. There are subtle differences throughout when it comes to both shadows, the way shadows and lighting and pretty much all of the ambience in the game is handled. Obviously, sticking to the shadows is a big part of Watch Dogs, and in some areas you can definitely tell that the PS4 version has a small edge over the Xbox One. They generally feel a little bit smoother, a little bit fuller, and definitely benefit as well from the higher resolution natively that the PS4 managed to put out. It's worth noting that they're still quite substantially behind, as you'll find out in the next couple of days, than the PC if it's running at ultra settings. That's not to say that you get a completely different atmosphere in with the shadows. They're pretty much part and parcel the same. They just look nicer on the PS4 compared to the Xbox One. Ambient Occlusion is up next. So Ambient Occlusion, in terms of how the lighting and various other bits and bobs are handled. Now, according to Ubisoft and Nvidia, they are utilizing MHBAO. For the console versions, both console versions, which is accordingly a half resolution, and Nvidia cheekily calls this console quality. Kind of like a small slight against consoles there for Nvidia. Regardless, it's definitely noticeably worse than HBAO or HBAO+, which are available on the PC. But the good news is lighting overall is fairly comparable on the two versions. The PS4 version, on the other hand, does have some slight edges. I have noticed that HBAO and some of the lighting techniques are used a little bit more sparingly on the Xbox One, as it turns out. I guess that's just to try and beef up the frame rate. Meanwhile, shooting itself, for example at various surfaces, is a little bit different on both consoles. It's kind of interesting because when you're shooting the ground, for example on the Xbox One, you can actually notice small explosions from the ground. Well, I suppose technically it's where the bullets are impacting and it sprays up dirt. On the Xbox One version, it does look like there's a small amount of flash as well almost like it's a ricochet effect, and this is definitely more noticeable than the Xbox One version. I've included screenshots in the article, and there is a small section in the video which shows it as well, but I'd recommend you check the images if you're still not exactly certain what I mean. So overall, I would say that both versions are quite comparable. The PS4 version is slightly nicer, but it's more polish rather than, oh my goodness, this is completely and utterly like so much better. It's also worth noting that the PS4 version does have that extra bonus content. Now, your mileage may vary on this. It's basically an extra costume, and you've also got about an hour of extra single-player DLC, which is pretty much, as far as I can tell, simply unlocked. It's a very small download. Now, lastly, we're going to discuss loading times. On the standard hard drives for both consoles, so that would be the 500GB standard launch systems, the PS4 has an initial load time that would be from the main menu when you press, the resume button, that is continue, to loading into the game of about 52 seconds. The Xbox One version is slightly behind. It hits about 1 minute 15, which is quite substantial. And you'll also notice there's longer load times between when you continue as well. They're about 7 seconds, and I'm running out of time here to speak, so if you want more information on this stuff, as well as high-resolution downloads and images, check out redgamingtech.com or check the link in the video description. We're doing, as I said, over the next couple of days, graphics analysis for the PC versus the consoles, and we're also going to be, of course, doing the frame rate analysis of the consoles as well to give you an idea, but as I said, a bit of a preview, they're roughly on schedule. So anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this first Tech Tribunal. I'll see you soon, take care, bye for now.